Hey, collectors, and welcome to episode 6 of People with Issues. My guest this week is Adam from Virginia in the USA, and that is Adam from Up and Adam Comics. A talented artist, despite his own modest description of his ability, with quite a brilliant imagination, very funny guy. I first met Adam a couple of months ago, and we were arranging a commission piece for C3 on Brandon's channel on Mon Comics, and it's been quite a ride getting to know Adam in the last couple of months. We've become good friends. Discovered that despite a combined age of over 100, we are like a pair of naughty kids at the back of the school class. So I was really keen to get a proper one-on-one episode with Adam and discover more about his artistic thinking, more about his comic collecting journey. Maybe there were some things I just shouldn't have asked. Let's find out, shall we? Adam, thanks very much for joining me today. Or is it Adam, or should I call you Up and?
No, Adam is great. Yeah.
Adam is great. So I don't need to dig too deep into why Up and Adam Comics. It's a clever name, but we've established your name is actually Adam.
Right.
That's what that is. Yeah, really awesome to have you along. So as usual with everybody, we'll get straight into it. And can you just sort of clue me in a little bit as to how you got into comics, your first experience of comics?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, growing up, now, maybe a little bit different than in the U.S. with just exposure to things. But, I remember we had a show, Electric Company, that was
Yeah.
kind of like a kid's show. Yeah. And so, it's one where, Morgan Freeman got got his start, as a vampire in the bathtub and all those kind of crazy things. But the they had like a little Spider-Man segment on some of those episodes, which I remember liking, and then started off into like around the time when I was probably 10 or so would be my guess, trying to remember dates, but I had Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends,
Yeah.
was a cartoon that was on, and also like the Hulk, Incredible Hulk TV show,
Yes.
was on, and so I was kind of very embedded in the Marvel world. Now on the DC side, I did watch, the Batman 66 show was in syndication for a long time. So I remember watching that. Kind of a funny story. My sister is 6 years older than me, and I have a brother that's 10 years older than me. And my sister, one of her first words was Batman, because she said, because my brother was running around singing the Batman theme song all the time. So she was like, Mama, Daddy, Batman, so Batman was like a big, a big thing. And I love the 60s series. That was great. I was kind of subjected to a lot of this material, luckily, I think pretty
Yeah.
early on. And then I think, one of the things, I used to stay a lot with my grandmother and on weekends. And so my grandmother, we have a series of convenience stores that's here in the U.S. called 7-Elevens
Yeah.
that we have, and they were a place, and we would go and walk down to, it was just like a block or two away, and we were going to get Slurpees at 7-Eleven, and she's like, oh, go, I was looking through some of the comics, and she's like, oh, go pick yourself out one. So I actually have that book that I
Wow.
actually picked up, and it's this one, Avengers 221. And so I have this actually signed. I've been getting like a couple people to sign it. I have David Michelini was the writer on this, and Brett Breeding did some, I think, the lettering on this. And so this was like my first comic, and I got it because it was going to have a lot of characters on it, and it was like I want to learn, some more. Like I knew Spider-Man, I knew who
Sure.
Wolverine was because he appeared on Spider-Man: The Amazing Friends. I knew the Hulk, so I was like, let me pick this book up. I didn't know Rom, nor should I probably, but so I was kind of excited about this. So we got back to her house, and I kind of read it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want some more books. So I told her, I
Yeah.
was like, what, I want to get some more comics. So she's like, well, if you like cut my shrubberies and do a few things around the yard, I'll give you a couple bucks and you can go down and get some other things. So I got like What If number 34. It was an all humor issue, but it had like every page was like a different story and it was something about a different character. And then I remember getting a Contest of Champions
Yeah.
issue number 3. That was so I went back and got that, and I got a Conan book. And so, because Conan movie was out, and so I love
Yeah.
the Conan movie. So those were kind of like, and then it was kind of like a couple weeks later, got a Hulk book, and some different things like that I had seen, and so that kind of started started the wheels turning. And initially, my goal was just to try to like get books mostly that had like multiple characters in it, just so I could kind of learn as much as I could about it. So that was kind of that was kind of where I started.
So is that what that'd be? What about 80, 81, 82
I
ish?
think
Or
this is 82.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So, and I'd have been exposed a little bit to comics before that. My brother collected, like, didn't collect. He had a few. He had a few books. He had like Sad Sack and the Sarge, and he would get Classics Illustrated. In comic form, it was more just so that he didn't have to read the actual book. So he would get, if he had an assignment, he was going to get the comic. And so I remember reading through like Treasure Island and some of those
yeah.
like Classic Illustrated and stuff early on.
Well, that
And he had
that's
like Mad Magazine and National Lampoon, if I could like sneak a look into those.
yeah.
But he had those kind of things. Yeah.
I spoke to Raf from Raf's Retro Comics. Contest of Champions was his first book.
I know. I saw that, and the thing that I loved about RAF is something like I have brought up too, and like nobody knew it, was how the scoring was wrong in that book.
Yeah.
And so I remember reading it, and I was like, "Am I getting
What?
something wrong here? Because I think this team should have won and not this one." And I remember reading that several times. But I was so glad to hear Raph say that, because those were my thoughts. Like as a kid, I was like upset about it, but I was like, I guess it's comics.
A,
We're not
a
supposed
lot,
to question.
a lot of very confused kids knocking about at that time.
I would have really loved Spider-Man, but those comics got sold pretty quickly on the racks.
Yeah,
So I couldn't find any Spider-Man. I couldn't find any X-Men. Like those, it just wasn't available because people were buying them. I could find like a Marvel Tales and like Peter Parker. I got the Peter Parker issue that had the like Cloak and Dagger on it.
yeah.
And that was kind of like, those were the ones I could buy because I couldn't find Amazing Spider-Man. It was kind of like that. But and I'm wearing this shirt because one of the titles that I really got into early was Alpha Flight, because that came out with a number 1.
Okay.
And so I was, just really excited because I was like, oh, this is at the time I didn't know that they had started an X-Men before that, but I was like, oh, this is a number 1 issue, and I really enjoyed it. And that was kind of like one of the early books that I kind of got into.
That does feel special when you're a kid. I think it's the first issue. It's,
I'd say really the moment where I felt like I was going to be a collector was, in the ads of some of these books. You get the Mile High Comics, ad with all the values and all the books that they had, and then, but I actually sent off for some comics with East Coast Comics. They were
Mhm.
one of those that had an ad, and it was like, this, if you want these, it's 50 cents. If you want, whatever. and you had to get a money order, just put it in the mail, put the issues that you wanted, and
Yeah.
hope for the best. Because you didn't know, you had to put alternates and things like that.
Okay.
And so I sent off, and some of the things that I wanted to get in that was it was to get Alpha Flight books that I didn't have, and to get some Captain America books. So I was getting Captain America because they had a lot of Mike Zeck. It was kind of right during that time, and so I wanted to get a good chunk of those to read them because I was enjoying those. And I was like, oh, I missed a whole bunch of Alpha Flight. I need to go find them again. And so that was kind of the first time, when they shipped them, that was kind of the first time I ever saw like a bag and a board, because
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, this is kind of interesting. So, but that was kind of like, I think, the moment where I was like, oh, I'm going to try to get a little run of these and that type of thing. At least over here, in the U.S., like you didn't tell people that you read comics, like you just didn't do it. It was like a secret thing. So eventually, I found out that what day that the drugstore was getting in, like we just had a news distribution place that would come in and put the new magazines and stuff and take the old ones away, and but I found out what day that was. And so right after school, I would bike up and kind of wait there for the news guy to come. And then eventually he'd be like, okay, here are all the comics. You can kind of go through those. And so some of them I was reading and some I was, looking to buy at that point. But I remember biking by, and I had a good friend, and he was like, hey, what do he stopped me. He's like, hey, what do you got in that? Uh, what do you got on your bike there? Because I had like, on the handlebar, and you had like a plastic bag, and I'm sitting there, riding it or whatever. And I was like, oh, nothing. I just got some stuff from the drugstore. And he was like, oh, are those comics? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I collect comics too.
Oh,
And so he was like, come look at what I have. And he was a big Daredevil fan like you. So he was in the thick of all the Frank Miller Daredevil stuff. And so he actually, he was became one of my best friends that I had. And he one time said, he's like, hey, my dad takes me like a couple of times a year to a comic shop that was about an hour away, and
mm,
he's like, we got to go, like you have to go with me next time. And so I did, and it was kind of funny just being naive. And he was like, well, you're going to want to have some good money to like go with you to that. And so like I show up that morning, and he's like, how much money did you bring? And I was like, oh, out of all that I had, like I had like I don't know, something like $8 or something like that. And he's like, no, you're going to need a whole lot more than that. So he was like, he had a news route and everything. So he's like, I'm going to give you this, and you can pay me back whenever. And so he gave me some more money, but that was like the first comic shop that I went into where you could see, like you said, the organization of everything. And it was just like, oh, there's runs of X-Men and Spider-Man and all this stuff like I'd never seen. And, it was just interesting to like, that was my first exposure to a comic shop. So fast forward a little bit, we were, there was I had a drugstore that was a little bit of a bike ride to get there. And then there was a newsstand that had opened up that was a lot closer. And so he and I would go there on release day and kind of start getting comics from there. And we actually, we were starting to hear these things about these independent books, and like, oh, there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there's, Nexus and Badger and some of these other things. And so we convinced the newsstand guy to get his comics, from a distributor. And I was like, then we can get all these other things, because at the time, like, Marvel and DC, they had certain titles that you could only get through the comic shop distribution. So it was
yeah.
like I could never read a Moon Knight or a New Teen Titans or any of that kind of Marvel fanfare. Marvel fanfare was kind of like, oh wow, they have some really cool stories. I want to read them, but I can't get them. And so we convinced him to start getting other comics, and we would go in there and be like, yeah, pick this up, we want to get this, we want to get this. And he was great too, like just in terms of collector, because once he started getting distribution, companies would reach out to him and be like, "Hey, we have like liquidation on all of these back issues, and you can order all this stuff." And so he would let us pick things that we wanted to get, and he's like, "You can just have them for the cost of it." But it was like, I remember getting like a really old issue of like Strange Tales with Human Torch in it. That was it was like 25 cents, and so it was like we were just picking out different things that we wanted, and then we
Yeah.
get, so it was kind of, drug
I mean,
dealing.
that's that's pretty privileged position to be in at that age.
Yeah, but but it was doing well for him because he was actually getting people in the whole city to like start coming, because it was the only place that would get this stuff. And
Yeah.
so it kind of started building him up a little bit, with his business. So he was like, "Yeah, these kids are kind of smart for encouraging me to do all of this." Yeah.
Totally. Well done, sir. I'm gonna divert slightly. Probably slightly different structure from a normal episode because, as I will have been saying in the introduction to this, you are an artist.
Try to
So
be.
you try to be. So we've got a couple of things to do. First thing, can I ask you just to, if you've got one handy, what I'm keen for people to see if they're not already familiar with this, as an example of one of the kind of covers that you recreate. Could you show us one?
Yeah, yeah. So I do. You know, lately I've been doing a lot of recreations of covers, but including different YouTubers. Because when I was starting off YouTube, um, to have a channel, I was watching other people do things, and I kind of wanted to, like, hey, this would be kind of cool to put them into other covers and kind
Yeah,
of change the trade dress and all that kind of stuff. But because I was doing that for some friends, like I was changing covers around and doing some stuff, and I was also doing it for me. And so, like, I have a few that I've done that are. Doctor Doom is probably my favorite character. I know he's a bad guy, but I just love him. And so I've done like a series of Doctor Doom, but changing like horror covers, but changing it around. So I have like, House of Secrets '96, but I make it the House of
yeah,
Storms, and Sue Storm's in here. Her hand is slightly invisible, and then she's getting ready to turn invisible because Doctor Doom instead of Swamp Thing is coming back up there. And then some of them I do, the crime suspense story, or crime suspense stories 22 that I did with Doctor Doom cutting off Sue's head, and there's her body laying down there. So I've done some stuff like that. I did a Witch's Tales with which has this like kind of bell tower guy that's ringing. It has, in the original one, has this guy's head, but I did like Doctor Doom, but he's got the Thing's head, as the um, dongle. Is that the right word? Whatever that
yeah.
thing is that hits the side of the bell. It sounds a little wrong, but I have that. But I did some more things like Silver Surfer 4, but Thing and Doctor Doom, and he's got the Yancey Street post there, so street sign to hit him with, and getting ready for Christmas, we got to have Vault of Horror, but it's the Vault of Victor, and Doom is getting ready to cut off Sue's head with that. It says Merry Christmas to Reed's wife. That's what's in the coffin there. So yeah, I've done some various things like that, which are just kind of fun for me, and I have a whole like group of them that I'd like to do more of.
So,
But yeah, just kind of fun.
Adam, I think it's. I mean, it doesn't need me to say it, but they're absolutely fantastic. They really are great. They're clever. They're funny,
Oh,
and
thanks.
very
Yeah.
well done. Was there a particular book or a particular artist that inspired you to either get into art or to start copying comic books? Or
Yeah, I mean, the art is probably what really has always stood out to me
sure,
in comics. And I think it took a little while for me to make connections with art, like particular artists. and books that they were on.
Mhm.
But once I did, like with Alpha Flight was John Byrne, and then when I saw like, oh, he did, he's done Fantastic Four and he's done X-Men and some different things like that, and like Mike Zeck, watching him on various titles, and things like that I would see. That definitely got me more interested, and I was always very interested in a lot of the people that did heavy detail, so
Okay.
like the John Byrne, George Perez, some of that, like those things really, stood out to me because it was so intricate, and the time, and it stood out compared to some that were a little more cartoony, and maybe Mike Zeck is a little bit more on that cartoony side, a little bit with some of his drawing, but it was kind of a neat thing to kind of see that correlation, and so I've always kind of doodled with things and have liked to draw a little bit, but it hasn't been until like too long recently where in the last 10 years where I started really trying to do more stuff with it. So
Yeah, yeah. And when you mentioned the detail there, Perez was the first one that jumped to mind from sort of that era. But do you mind? Now, this is completely optional, but I know from a chat we had previously, you've got quite a special item connected to George Perez.
yes, I need to get that. Can I pause and get that real quick?
Yes, of course you can.
Okay, yeah, let me get that.
Viewers,
Okay.
don't be alarmed. Adam's a long way away. We're all going to be okay. So,
I am back.
what have
so
you got?
so I have this from George Perez.
Is
So
okay?
this is a so shortly after he passed away, um, his wife did kind of um, a a sale of some of George's items, not like his most, worth a lot of money kind of pieces.
Yeah.
But this was one of the things I got this, and I also got one of his personal issues of Fantastic Four bag, a book. But this is his um, bag of Sharpies that he would take with him for conventions. And so I have a whole bunch of his pens that he used to sign and draw. And this is like a blue line pencil that he had that you just know, like, he was holding this, he was doing things with it. So that was special to me, and it also had a ticket in it. And so from meeting George Perez one time at a convention, he would have somebody hand out tickets in the line, and so he didn't want people to just stay in his line all day. So he would put a number on it, and I can see this has like 177,
Mm.
and so he would hand these tickets out, and so when your number was up, you could come back and see like where they were in the line of numbers of people that he's talked to, and if your number was up, then he would you were at the front of the line and
Yeah.
you could get whatever signed and everything like that. So
Oh, what a
so this
hero.
was kind of special to me because it was kind of something that like he had with him and carried and did art with, and so that was really special, I think, to have that.
Well, I mean, most of us, or most George Perez fan, well, most of us, could probably only dream of actually having a bit of George Perez art or George Perez, something signed by George Perez. But to actually have some of the tools of his trade, that's special.
Right. So yeah. So I've so that was just a such a great thing to I mean that they offered that up, and it wasn't very expensive at all.
Mm.
I think this was like $50 for his $50 for his
Oh,
bag
oh,
of
even
pens and all that.
wow.
And so, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, look, on a similar theme, if we go on to obviously during these episodes, you like to have a bit of show and tell with some books, and you got off to a flyer with some of the ones from early in your collecting days. Now, I sort of put in a special one for you, which was, yeah. Do you have a book that you wish that you'd drawn if you had been a comic book
Yes.
artist?
Actually, I have two. I'm going to cheat. I
Okay,
have
okay.
two. And this is this is one I remember getting at the bookstore. Now it's more of a graphic novel. Um, but have you ever seen this, Voodoo Child?
No, no.
I'm a big Jimi Hendrix fan, and this is Bill Sienkiewicz. So Bill Sienkiewicz did this art, and this was kind of right when Bill Sienkiewicz, when he first started, he did a lot of like he did Moon Knight and some different things that looked a lot more like Neil Adams. This kind of, but then he started doing his own stylized work. And initially, as um, from different books that he's done, he kind of even the Daredevil. Graphic novel that he did was really one of the early times where he showcased some of his stuff. But I mean, uh, this book was just so amazing to me, and I was like, man, it would be such an honor to have drawn something like this. But his weird kind of art style and just being able to be psychedelic with it and everything like that. I was like, this was just really cool. And it was kind of at that time that I didn't know what to take of the art. Like it was so far out there from anything that I'd seen, but it really fits pretty well. But yeah, and it came at the time. It came with like a CD that had not been released, and so I was like, oh yeah, I definitely wanted to get that. So that
Is
would
that
be
is that
one.
is that sort of painted?
Oh yeah, all of this is painted art. Yeah, there's the Beatles there. Um, uh,
It's stunning. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. But all of it is painted and just really, kind of some wild art. So to do something that combine some of the music that I like with, with the crazy art in that. I would say that one would be.
Mm.
And then this one is more of a recent thing, but this is I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but this book it's Fantastic Four Full Circle by
Okay.
Alex Ross. And a lot of people know Alex Ross, but he really poured so much into this and really did a lot that was Jack Kirby esque. Like you can see that looks like Jack Kirby art, but it's done in Alex Ross's painted style. And so I have a few different. It's kind of funny. I have a few different versions of this book. Like I bought this one, and and then the owner of my LCS gave me another one, and which is this one here, and he's like, "Hey, here's this for you," and I was like, "I already have it." He's like, "No, you don't. You don't have this. You don't have this copy." And I didn't realize it was signed by Alex Ross. so,
Oh, wow.
and he doesn't do a lot of signings, so that was kind of a great treat to have there. But it's a great standalone, graphic novel, but great story. But definitely highly recommended if you haven't. It's just called Fantastic Four, Full Circle. Is the
Un-
name.
Unfortunately, I can't remember where, but quite recently I saw that, but I didn't know what it was. I,
Right.
Otherwise, if we'd had this chat before then, I'd have definitely picked it up. I love Alex Ross stuff, like most people do. But yeah, it was interesting to see the styles there. And the first couple of pages you showed is actually the first thing I thought was like, I wonder if that's a bit of an ode to Schomburg because there was so much packed into it.
It really is.
It's absolutely stunning. I'm quite surprised. I expected, pleasantly surprised. I sort of would have expected, you know, X-Men or Avengers number 123, you know, as a standard comic book. So that was really cool to see. And I didn't know you painted either. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I've done some painting too. So yeah, yeah.
that makes sense. I see a future episode where we're going to have a deeper delve into some of this artwork.
Yeah, great.
Is pretty awesome. I need to bring this up. So far in the episode, and I've said on the episodes we've done so far, the episodes I've recorded so far, that I'm not sort of keeping a tally of who has how many comic books or what have you, but there was a noticeable in the first 4 episodes. It was like, you know, myself and Mike from Portsmouth, you know, we're around the sort of 1400 mark. Raf and Carl were sort of around the 4000 mark. Um, yeah, and when I spoke to Kevin from Doc's Comics, I think he's currently round about the same mark as well. So you, Adam, do you want to share? Do you want to share with the class?
Too many. About 18K. So just hit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's something to applaud or not, but yeah, I'm trying to. I need to reduce that, quite a bit. So that's been kind of my goal, is try to get that more manageable amount. Because you think about some of the stuff. It's like you read it once and put it away, and that's kind of not. You know, I'm trying to reread a bunch of things and sell some things and do some stuff like that to try to have it more manageable. I mean, there's definitely some runs that I'm not going to, get rid of anytime soon, but,
Yeah.
that's just kind of, and I get a good number of new issues, too. So,
So like I say, in no way, shape, or form are we measuring anything by the size of one collection, but I am going to give you one of these. Just because I've now got the software to do that.
is that a congratulatory gong, or it's a gong get off the stage?
It's the gong of undetermined significance.
There you go. That's great.
So we'll kind of leave that open, but okay, yeah. So we've given a lot of love to some books and some artists. Let's change pace slightly by talking about. I put it to you to come up with a book that you feel is, to you personally, overrated. Why? We'd like to know what it is and why you feel it's overrated. And as with as with the other guys, we're not pouring hate on anything at all. We absolutely respect everybody's kind of, if it's a book you love, don't be upset by it. It's just, why does this mean what it means to you? So announce the book that you've gone for, and I'll see if I can get that up on the screen.
Yeah, so this was the book that I picked, and I actually own it, but it's a Journey into Mystery 102. And so
Okay.
the significance of this book is it's the first appearance of Hela.
Hmm.
And but the reason I think it's overrated is she's only, like, you can only really see her for one true panel. And then there's only like 4 panels total where she's actually in it, and one of them you can see her, and the other was like just a hand or the back of her head or something like that. You
Yeah.
don't really get a good feel for it. And she's in the like Tales of the Asgard backup story in this.
Hmm.
So I remember going to when I got my copy, because I do tend to like the bad guys sometimes. I think the bad guys are kind of the uh, what makes the good guys good in some ways. Like they're interesting characters that are kind of the foil for the character to like go against. Otherwise, like they're just flying around having their powers and not really doing
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so I've always really liked interesting bad guys, and I remember. going to a con, and they had Journey into Mystery 102, and they had a 103, which is the 103 is the first Enchantress in there. And so the dealer or whatever was like, he had both of them, but of course he had a higher price on the 103. And he
Mm.
was like, "Oh, you really need to, if you're trying to decide between the two, you need to get the 103." And I was like, "Well, but I kind of want 102 because Hela is more of a bad guy even than Enchantress. Like she's just more evil, I guess." And so I went with the 102, but then I was like flipping through, and I was like, "Man, this is kind of a disappointment." So, like she's not on the cover.
Yeah.
She has some great covers later on in like Thor, but you really don't see much of her in that. So that's why I picked that as overrated because I mean, there's definitely big things you could go for, like X-Men 266 with First Gambit, because it's not the First Gambit. It's something you could pick you know
So it
some
is.
issues, but yeah.
Educate me here. So, I mean, 102, I had, I looked at my recall isn't good enough. When sort of people fire off issue numbers, I genuinely have to look them up and see what they are. But I looked at that one. I thought I don't really recognize that one, and I was like, is that like a big key or
I
is
mean,
it?
it's a first appearance of a bigger character, and I think when the Thor movie was that had her in it with Kate Blanchett playing Hela, like
Mm,
I, like it hit like some pretty big interest at one point.
okay,
But
yeah,
I
yeah,
think and there's that whole like MCU movies with characters in them, and they drive the prices up and things like that, and then usually it settles down after a while.
well,
But yeah.
that makes sense because I was going to hit you with a charge of this is just sour grapes and personal disappointment on your part, but you pulled it out the fire, and I'll let that one slide. That's I can see other people. I could see other people probably go along with that, but anyone who's watching, if this is a book that's important to you or you have similar thoughts, you let us know in the comments because but it's quite good. It's not like I say, it's not a. I would expect to see sort of maybe when I ask that question, maybe sort of books that are in the regularly in the top 10. Your appearance of the Punisher and Spider Man or Amazing Spider Man 300 or stuff like that. It's really good to see a different one. Nice choice, sir. I like it. I like
Yeah, I wanted to, there's definitely low hanging fruit for picking some like big book,
yeah.
but I was like, well, this is one that you know that people don't know about as much as having a big significance, but yet even if you bought that book for the key, you'd probably be a little disappointed with it. So that was kind of what I was thinking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a bit unfair to keep asking other people that question. I think at some point I might have to do a sidebar and do like pick five or something. So I can put myself in the line of some rotten tomatoes. Um, okay, and here's I'm quite looking. Well, am I looking forward to this one? Let's see. I've got my sign ready just in case. But a challenge I also put to you was, can you show me a weird book? Can you see if you can freak me out with a book? Frankly, I'm freaked out enough already with your art, but
So, I mean, one of the things that I really like getting is just purely absurd books that you're like wondering, how did this ever get made?
uh-huh.
This is definitely somebody's passion project that they wanted to put out, but it's like
Okay.
the fact that this exists is just crazy to me. So, um, if you've ever, I don't know if you're familiar with Rick Remender.
No.
Rick Remender, he's done some books in Marvel and things like that, but um, he did Deadly Class, um, Low, Black Science, some of the bigger indie books, and they're great stories, and a lot like he's a very good writer, and usually one like if you see a book from him, you're going to want to pick it up, right?
Right.
Um, but his very first work in comics is
Okay.
this: Captain Dingleberry.
Let me put you up on the full screen for Captain Dingleberry.
Captain Dingleberry. And these little dingleberries are known as the fecal four.
Well, that answers my next question.
So, but I just started putting something up on my channel, and I'm going to feature this book. I got number one and number two. There's actually like 6 or 7 issues of it.
Yeah.
Rick Remender also does the art for most of this book, which is kind of interesting. And
Okay.
but it's such a weird thing. And then it also has this guy in the back. They have like several stories in each issue of this, and one of them is uh, Captain Dingleberry actually uh, sucks people up into his butt into like another dimension, and this dimension they get to meet this guy. So he's like in this inner dimension of this guy's butt. So it's a very bizarre, weird book, but it was actually like it's pretty well done. Yes, send help, please do. Yeah, but yeah, I've been doing some like I did the first episode of called the My Light Zone that I'm doing. That's basically where I'm going to try to feature some of these books. So I had like the first one I did was Doom Patrol. It's an issue where this villain called the Cod Piece is out, and so I'm going to do like a little deeper dive into Captain Dingleberry. But yeah, like no, not many people know that this book exists, and to have it be like a prominent writer's first comic that he had published, it's pretty crazy.
I've got to be honest with you. When when you were the first part of that explanation, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, yeah, it looks like a modern, silly, slightly rude thing. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
but weird. Am I weirded out? And then you said he sucks people up into his butt.
And then you're like, yep, I'm weirded out.
Win. Well done. Absolutely nailed it. I'm never going to buy. Well, would I? No, I'm not going to buy that. No, it's. I mean, that's bonkers. How you can? I mean, you came on to something I wanted to mention there as well. I like. There's all sorts in the comic collecting world. Comic shops, people you talk to, YouTube channels, and what have you. I love little irreverent background details, and sometimes I miss the purpose of somebody's point because there's something else going on, and it can be just the strangest things. And I get real delight, a proper joy and delight from some of this stuff. Now, I think in we all comic collecting's fun. It's a fun hobby, so generally you don't meet too many miserable bastards doing this. You tend to be fun people, but so I think things like people with issues. My non-comic collecting family and what have you, they were like, "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's amazing." And I said, "Well, actually, comic collectors, it's a thing that dates back years. It's not a new pun or play on words. It's so thank you, but it's just a bit of fun." The My Light Zone is genius. I I howled when you did your trailer for that. I howled, and I was like, it's one of those things where you look for what's better than that, and there isn't anything. It,
I appreciate that.
it's absolutely beautiful. We've just been at time of recording this. I was kind of wondering, was like, is this something? Is there going to be episodes of this? Is it going to be a thing, or did he just have a? Did he wake up one morning and go, "Oh my god, my light zone"? Throw it out on Instagram and then not do anything about it. What is there going to be content? Yeah,
There'll be some content, and it was kind of fun. Rich from Big Nasty Comics, he had talked to me, like we've been talking about, because he collects a lot of weird stuff too, and he's like, we should really do something with this. And we had thrown some ideas back and forth, and we are still planning on doing something. We just had a conversation recently
yeah.
about trying to do something. He wants to like do like a top down. Let's go page by page and look through some different things of weird books that are out there.
Uh-huh.
but I'm going to do this like little side thing. It just is more because he's thinking about inviting other people to show things and stuff like that
Sure.
too. And so I was like, well, I have a lot of these weird things that like there's probably not a lot of people that have them, and so I was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna do some different episodes of that type of thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. I can't wait for that. But yeah, that Captain Buttsuck or whatever his name is completely belongs in there. So okay, so let's get on to another booky question. There's been so much to cram into this. Honestly, probably could have done a two-parter, but
That's all good.
if I get, and again, as I always state, a disclaimer: this is not real. This is not happening. But if I gave you 125 US dollars to buy one book tomorrow, what would it be? Although, judging by the sound of your collection, I'm not sure if there's anything you haven't got, is there?
No.
What did you come
Well,
up with?
I had debated talk about another weird book. The one an answer that I almost thought about. There is a book out there that I saw that's a comic that is called Mr. Nipples. It's a guy that has nipples all over his chest, and it's like I don't know what it's about, but I want to read it, right? But like like it's like $100, like because there's not many of these things out there, but like I couldn't seriously want to spend that amount of money on that book. So my real answer is Tales of Suspense 58, which is the Iron Man and Captain America on the cover battling, and this was shortly after Captain America had been reintroduced into the Silver Age. And it started because he was very popular in the Avengers title. They kind of brought him into Tales of Suspense, and then they, as most people know, when DC was in charge of the distribution of Marvel books at the time,
Mm.
um, they could only have so many books out on the market, but it's like we got to do something with Captain America too. So they kind of throw him. Ultimately, it starts where they split the book in issue 59, where it's half Iron Man, half Captain America, until the
Hmm.
end of the run, and then they go on to like issue 100 in their own in his own title. But yeah, 58 is kind of when he started in there, and I've been slowly working on getting that run of Captain America books
Oh wow. Okay.
for that he's in from Tales of Suspense. I have all the Captain America Volume One, so it's kind of like makes sense to go back and try to just start it from the very beginning of that run. So, which Tales of Suspense would be considered the real people that I won't say the real. That's a judgmental thing, but it's like some of the people in different circles say, well, you're not really a Captain America collector unless you have all of the Tales of Suspense as well. So I don't know, been guilted into that type of conversation. So I think that would be the one that I would go for. Yeah.
I mean, what a great choice. Okay, so all right, now it's time for the big one. So I put this to you. This is the scene, right? You're sitting at your desk, sketching out a Captain Dingleberry cover for somebody you don't like, and um, there's a knock at the door, and it's the guy. You've phoned some guys to say, listen, I've got 18,000 comic books. I kind of need to take half of them and take them somewhere else to be put up for auction, etc., etc. The removal guy turns up, and here's a twist: it's Doctor Doom.
Ooh.
Where's my ominous thing? It's Doctor Doom.
The fickle finger of fate. Yeah.
You look at his, what are the gauntlets?
Yeah.
Gauntlets, yeah. And you look at your comic books and you think, oh my god, this isn't going to end well. They're all going to end up as if I don't know about in the US, but we have some couriers here, and I'm sure they wear metal gauntlets. The state some of the stuff it turns up in. Anyway, that's besides the point. You realise you can only save one of your books before Doctor Doom starts plowing through them with his meaty gauntlets. So, what's it going to be? Is what we want to know. What are you saving above all else? One book.
Yeah, what I am saving.
Please don't be Captain Dingleberry.
No,
Well,
Fantastic Four 48. So this was my biggest grail that I ever thought, and I was like, I just, I've always thought like, FF1, the FF5, like some of those things, books are just, you know, I was never going to have. But I was like, this might be achievable, and this starts the, um, I have the, the 49 and the 50 as well. But this is that like trilogy. But if I had to pick one, it'd be this. And there's also some reasons by this. So um, I have some very kind friends, and the person that previously owned our local comic shop before he sold it to another one of my friends.
mhm.
I went down. I was down for some work travel, and I was like, "Hey, there was this." He was like, "Hey, did you see any cool comics at this shop that I was going to?" And I was like, "Yeah, they had two copies of." I said my Ultimate Grail, FF48, and he was like, "Oh wow, that's pretty crazy." And then what happened was that weekend he went down there and bought it, and
Wow.
had some other friends chip in to it as well, and then so and I give back like right before this was kind of like before Christmas or whatever, and he's like, "Oh hey, I got something for you," and he just like throws this to me, and I'm like, "What?" And, totally blown away. But yeah, this would be. I mean, not only just the significance of the Grail of it, but to have that connection with the people that put into that to do it, like this is never going anywhere, so yeah, I was so touched, and it's a pretty good copy of it as well. And it was kind of funny, as soon as he gave it to me, I was like flipping through it. I was like, I gotta look through this because I just want to see it. And he's like, that's why I love it, because he's like, you're flipping through it immediately, like as soon as you get it.
Mm.
I was like, yeah, I've haven't held one in my hands to be able to flip through before. So yeah, so that would be my book to hold back from the clutches of Doctor Doom.
I think most of the people I've spoken to, I can see me contacting them to see if at some point they'd like to do another episode or do something. I know we'll certainly do stuff.
Oh
Um,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got plans.
we, we've got some mad plans, but certainly of the people I've met to date doing people with issues, Adam, you without doubt have issues.
I definitely do.
And we are extremely grateful for your time today and for sharing them with us. So thanks very much indeed. Um, to anybody else watching, if you're not, if you, there might be one or two people in the UK maybe not quite so familiar with Adam. If you're not, do look him up on Instagram. Go over to his channel on YouTube. We'll make sure there's a link in the description, um, because he's definitely an awesome guy to know, to watch, to follow. Um, and we'll have a little chat afterwards. So to everybody else, I'll have a few words after the end of the recording. Thank you very much for watching. And oh yes, in the comments, talk to Adam, say hello to him, ask him something.
How
share share,
certifiable am I?
share your experiences about Captain Dingleberry, and above all else, thank
He
you,
will.
Adam.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
So there you have it. If you weren't familiar with Adam before, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, chatting to him. Some great stuff in his collection, some great sort of insights into his collecting journey. And I think particularly some of the stuff from his childhood are really enjoyed he's not just an artist with a brush and a piece of paper. His description of how he collected as a child was very evocative, and I really enjoyed that. We also found out that he's got something against Susan Richards. What is it? I don't understand that. We may never get to the bottom of it, but it's quite a lot of fun. So I do hope you enjoyed that. Remember, if you'd like to record your own episode of People with Issues with me, just get in touch. You don't have to have a big collection. You don't have to have a valuable collection. As you've seen from Adam's video, you don't have to be all there. Just if you love comics and you want to talk about them, get in touch. And until next time, stay groovy.